Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Binghamton City Council Special Business Meeting for September 15th, 2022. This meeting is scheduled to start our budget process with Mayor Cram's budget address. Please join me and stand for the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I'd ask our city clerk to please do a roll call for us for the city council members. Present. Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. To my city council colleagues, city hall employees, and fellow residents joining us here and from home, good afternoon. My name is Phil Strawn, City Council President, representative of Binghamton's 6th District. It's my pleasure to welcome you today for Mayor Jared Cram's 2023 budget address. This is the first budget Mayor Cram will present to the city and the public. When I endorsed Mayor Cram, I said that he'd be ready on day one, and while he's been in office for just 8.5 months, Mayor Cram has given us some idea what we can expect today. His actions have followed what he said in his inaugural speech, and what he talked about since taking office have made clear his priorities. Binghamton residents have seen unprecedented investments in public safety and critical upgrades to neighborhood streets and parks. We've seen a proactive approach to economic development, code, and housing, and a commitment to delivering results for Binghamton's families. I'm excited to hear what's in store with today's address. On behalf of my colleagues on City Council, I want to thank the mayor and his team at City Hall, especially Chuck Shager, Lori Clift, and their teams specifically for their hard work preparing this budget. My colleagues and I look forward to the days and weeks ahead we'll be spending ensuring the 2023 budget is one Binghamton's residents can be proud of. It's my pleasure now to introduce the 51st mayor of the City of Binghamton, Jared M. Cram.
Good afternoon, everyone. Members of City Council, city staff, special guests, members of the public, and those watching at home, as I said, good afternoon. The budget process is the most time-consuming annual project any mayor will undertake. There's no more important role for City Council members than the oversight and stewardship of how we spend taxpayer dollars. Thousands of budget lines, hundreds of tough decisions. The 2023 budget is at its core a plan, a roadmap for how we will fund vital services our residents need and build the projects that our community deserves. But budgets also make a statement. The one I will present this afternoon is reflective of Binghamton's priorities and values, not just mine, but of the thousands of residents who call this place home. Today's budget message will speak frankly about the challenges we face, where we're headed financially in the coming year, and the difficult decisions that must be made to secure a sound financial future for the city. The last 8 months have left a lot for Binghamton residents to talk about. In every corner of the city, our constituents are seeing results. Neighborhood streets paved on the south side, blighted buildings torn down, making way for new housing opportunities on the north side and downtown. On the east side, the city partnered with a startup to change the future of how municipalities pour concrete, making it cheaper and more sustainable. We've taken bold steps on student housing on the west side, turning grassroots discussions into legislative action to protect our neighborhoods. And we're chasing $10 million for Clinton Street and the First Ward to revitalize what could be the next great downtown in upstate New York. We've broken down economic development silos, raising Binghamton's profile and making headlines statewide with our plans for affordable housing, taking on the owners of the Binghamton Plaza, and as a municipal trailblazer in the multi-billion-dollar New York cannabis industry on the horizon. We've made unprecedented investments in public safety, doubling down on the single most important service any local government can provide its citizens. We've updated our approach to code enforcement and neighborhood revitalization and are energizing our downtown arts district with transformative streetscape improvements. We've delivered these results all in just 8 months, and we've done it with bipartisan votes from City Council and broad support from the community. The 2023 budget keeps that momentum going. So let's talk about some of the specifics. The city's total budget for 2023 is $97 million. Includes a $67.5 million general fund budget, which covers day-to-day city operations, and several enterprise funds that guide services vital to the city, such as water and sewer, community development, refuse collection, golf, and parking. The general fund budget is what directly impacts everyone's property tax rate and where most city services reside. And the general fund, as of today, has a healthy $15.6 million fund balance. The city's largest source of revenue to support those expenditures is local property taxes at $33.9 million in 2023. And at $14.5 million, sales tax is the city's second highest source of revenue. State aid for next year will remain flat at $10.2 million. And although we anticipate Binghamton's first adult use cannabis stores will open in 2023, I have budgeted $0 in revenue from sales for next year. We have no way of estimating expected revenues from the local excise tax that will be on the sale of cannabis, in which municipalities get 3 cents for every dollar sold of cannabis. In the broad categories of how we spend taxpayer dollars, salaries and employee benefits represent the largest budget expenditure at $56.9 million. The police and fire departments represent 64% of all salary costs in the 2023 general fund. Other significant areas in our budget are debt payments at $17.7 million, $3.4 million for transfers to other funds, and $2.4 million for parks. And next year's budget includes $9.4 million in health insurance costs, which is a reduction of 4% from this year. And we will pay $7.1 million to the New York State retirement system, which is a 4% decrease for this year. Let's talk about some specific departments. Right now, Binghamton is at a decision point as it relates to crime and public safety. Mayors across America are facing rising crime rates in their cities and shrinking resources to address things like mental health. At the same time, law enforcement agencies everywhere are struggling to retain and recruit members. Maintaining police staffing levels is one of our city's most pressing challenges. Today, the Binghamton Police Department has 19 vacancies due to retirements and career changes. Specialized details like the Community Response Team and Special Investigations Unit, they do essential work, but they pull officers off the beat, leaving a smaller pool of officers available for the patrol division compared to, say, 30 years ago. It's not just urban areas that are affected in our community. What happens in Binghamton has consequences that extend beyond city limits as it relates to crime. The landscape here and how we choose to respond to it directly impacts communities throughout Broome County and the Southern Tier. I view this responsibility seriously, and it's not one I will shy away from. Our future will come down to one of two choices. Either we accept this as the new status quo, or we respond in kind and meet our challenges with action. And let me be clear, Binghamton chooses action. We won't be indifferent to a changing landscape of crime or wash our hands of an issue because local lawmakers didn't cause it. Instead, we will respond by investing in the measures we know make communities safer. That starts with filling every vacant position in the Binghamton Police Department and being aggressive in recruiting a broad and diverse candidate pool. In a good scenario, the next police test will yield 19 strong candidates who will bring the Binghamton Police Department back to full staffing. In a best case scenario, the test will yield even more quality candidates worthy of hire. And if we can hire them, we should. I'm pleased to announce that Binghamton's 2023 budget adds 3 new police positions, partly funded by grants. These positions would bring the size of the police department to 145 sworn members, which is the largest in more than a decade. We know the continuum of public safety is not limited to police on the street. It's not as simple as more cops equal less crime, but staffing levels are the foundation of a strong police department. A fully staffed department means more resources for community policing, fewer patrol shifts that are stressed than responding from call to call, improved morale for officers, and better retention, especially for our most experienced officers. And beyond personnel in the 2023 budget, we'll continue to make investments in other public safety areas, including our support for data-driven 21st century policing that sets Binghamton apart in upstate New York. Earlier this year, I announced the city would allocate $1 million to reduce gun violence in Binghamton. The money is supporting community policing efforts and other evidence-based strategies, prevention, and other enforcement efforts through the Southern Tier Crime Analysis Center. I've heard from residents thrilled to see bike patrols in their neighborhood for the first time ever. And we're hopeful on a number of different state and federal grants that would help fund new training, new vehicles, equipment, and other resources. We're aggressive in pursuing these grants to support not just the police department, but to keep the community safe without overburdening the taxpayer. For the fire department, just a few weeks ago, I welcomed 12 new academy recruits to the Binghamton Fire Department. The graduating class included 4 women, more than any other class in the history of the fire department. That's a historic accomplishment that signals real progress. The 12 new graduates mean the department will be fully staffed in 2023, keeping overtime costs at a minimum and bolstering emergency response efforts to the more than 10,000 calls the fire department responds to every year. The new graduates are part of the next generation of firefighters, continuing a legacy of public service while ushering the department into a new era. Earlier this year, I announced a $1 million fund to upgrade and rehabilitate the city's historic neighborhood fire stations, the oldest of which was built more than 120 years ago. As you can imagine, these buildings are in need of significant rehabilitation. Using American Rescue Plan Act funds, we're making an unprecedented investment to upgrade these stations with new roofs, HVAC improvements, renovated bathrooms and bunk spaces, bring the station up to modern standards. These buildings are neighborhood anchors, and by working with fire administration and the firefighter union, we're securing their long-term future in those neighborhoods. And in a few months, Binghamton's brand new fire headquarters will open on Court Street. The $9 million state-of-the-art facility will support emergency response throughout the city, revitalize a key downtown corridor, and provide our firefighters with the modern work environment they deserve. In 2023, the city will invest $14.8 million rebuilding our streets, sidewalks, and other critical infrastructure. Infrastructure is the foundation of local jobs and commerce. It's what keeps residents and businesses moving. New sidewalks and pedestrian improvements let kids safely walk to school. And underground utility upgrades, make sure that our families have clean and safe drinking water. And I'm pleased to announce that my 2023 budget includes no increases in water rates or sewer rates. Funding infrastructure projects also mean creating good paying construction jobs and more money flowing through the local economy to small businesses. Early next year, I will co-host a regional infrastructure summit with the Chamber of Commerce to bring together the public and private sector, working side by side to find solutions about cutting red tape, expanding our labor force, and securing vital state and federal dollars for projects right in our backyard. Local municipalities can look to Binghamton as a regional leader in smart infrastructure policy and practice. One of those innovative areas is our new pavement rating system. A technology called Roadbotics utilizes artificial intelligence to map and analyze all 151 miles of city streets, so we can track the ones in the worst condition, prioritize funding, and get them paved. Next year, we'll pave dozens of neighborhood streets and thoroughfares, including Floral Ave, Vestal Ave, Holland Street, Seminary Ave, and Mill Street, just to name a few. We're funding the second phase of a transformative streetscape improvements in our downtown with $2.5 million allocated for upgrades on Washington Street, Henry Street, and Water Street to grow our walkable arts district. And we'll also begin designs to reimagine Memorial Bridge, which connects downtown and Riverside Drive. Upgrades will enhance that bridge, which is at the True Rivers Greenway, make it safer and more attractive to pedestrians and cyclists. This is a historic piece of infrastructure with some of the best views of our two rivers. It's about time we invest in it. Moving on to parks. The City of Binghamton owns and maintains 36 parks and green spaces. These public spaces provide residents of every age healthy recreational opportunities and make our neighborhoods more attractive to families looking to buy a home. Our parks are some of our most treasured assets. We need to care for them, not just so they'll be around for the next generation, but to unlock the potential they have for the city. On the south side, the city will advance a multi-million-dollar project to upgrade Conlon Field, replacing the flood-prone playing surface with artificial turf. The beloved baseball field at MacArthur Park has hosted special moments for generations of kids who look forward to playing there every year under the lights. But flooding issues have caused countless headaches for parks maintenance staff and led to unfavorable playing conditions. A new flood-resilient turf will make Conlon Field our region's premier amateur baseball field. It can also be used for soccer, football, lacrosse, and other sports in the off-season. I've spoken to Councilman Joe Burns, who is in full support of this investment in his district. And I will say, a year ago, myself and Councilman Burns happened to be on opposite sides of a political campaign. But in the months since my taking office, you would never know it. Councilman Burns has demonstrated a sincere approach to working together and getting things done on behalf of the city. It's a true mark of a public servant, and I'm likewise committed to helping the South Side succeed. So Joe, thank you for putting the residents above politics. Early last year, the city changed the management structure at the Ely Park Golf Course, hiring a national golf management firm to handle operations. The results have been overwhelmingly positive. Our municipal course is on pace to host more than 25,000 rounds in 2022. That's a significant number of folks coming to the city of Binghamton. And Ely Park is safe to say one of our region's most popular public outdoor destinations. First Ward Park is a very special and historic place. It provides affordable, accessible recreational opportunities for our community, especially for Binghamton seniors. The course has even more unlocked potential in contributing to golf tourism, which is an innovative marketing effort led by our Chamber of Commerce that attracts tour groups from across the Northeast to play at local golf courses. These golfers lodge multiple nights in downtown Binghamton, spend their dollars at local restaurants and our small businesses. By making upgrades at Ely Park and supporting this new management, we'll continue to raise Binghamton's profile as a Northeast golf destination, provide residents an affordable public course for generations to come. Next year, we'll also begin the process of reimagining the Parlor City Commons, crumbling and underutilized public space in our urban core between Washington and State Street. New lighting, landscaping, and other upgrades will make the space safer and more attractive. And as downtown Binghamton continues its revitalization, our public spaces should build on that momentum, not detract from it. Next year's budget also includes a new public works position dedicated to downtown beautification and keeping things tidy. A busier downtown will mean a stronger local economy. We should be doing more to make sure downtown is a place visitors want to come back to and residents are proud of. The 2023 budget also adds resources to improve maintenance of code-cited properties and city-owned vacant lots. 2 new full-time positions in the Parks Department and new equipment will help the city respond more quickly to high grass violations and other code issues that are bringing down our neighborhoods. Residents deserve to feel safe in their neighborhoods and in their homes. And right now, too many of Binghamton families live in substandard housing. A shortage of quality, affordable housing in Broome County forces many residents to choose between housing they can afford and housing that's safe. That's unacceptable. Supporting new housing development in Binghamton was a pledge I made during the campaign, and one we're already delivering on. Just a few weeks ago, we announced a $24 million mixed-use housing project on Henry Street near Mirabito Stadium. The Stadium Loft project will build 70 units of workforce and affordable housing, some earmarked for artists who will live right near the heart of downtown Binghamton's Arts District. And as I speak, there are hundreds of affordable units in the city of Binghamton's project pipeline, totaling conservatively tens of millions of dollars in new investments. And each of these projects will add to the city's affordable housing stock. We're using our allocation of federal funds and local property tax incentives to leverage millions of dollars in private money and state support to make these housing projects a reality. It's the most effective way we can use grants like ARPA and other federal entitlement funds to develop new housing. In affordable housing, like many of the issues I've outlined today, Binghamton is responding to a crisis that exceeds our borders, but it will not sideline City Hall. Instead, we're taking a proactive role helping fund, plan, and break ground on these critical projects, setting an example for other municipalities in the process. Binghamton is leading on other housing issues too. Last month, the city welcomed its first ever housing prosecutor, a new position we created to go after slumlords and serious repeat co-offenders. It's hard to overstate the impact housing has on families, especially on the outcomes of young people. Without a safe, decent place to call home, it's nearly impossible for students to focus on school or maintain a healthy lifestyle. Bad landlords don't just affect renters, they hurt entire neighborhoods, dragging down surrounding property values and draining city resources like code enforcement and police. They also make it harder for good landlords who play by the rules. This new housing prosecutor is focused on holding these bad actors accountable and is funded in the 2023 budget, heading up enforcement of the city's reformed lockdown law, prosecuting illegal commercial activity, and other quality of life matters. Each year, the city stewards roughly $3 million in federal funding through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to support community development projects, reduce poverty and homelessness, and grow affordable housing opportunities. In 2023, we will advance more than $220,000 in youth programs through that fund, $157,000 in park improvements, and $250,000 paving roads in low-income neighborhoods. More than $245,000 will support blighted property demolitions so we can continue to eradicate dangerous, dilapidated eyesores block by block. These federal dollars help deliver some of the most popular programs and projects to residents and ease the burden on taxpayers. We have to be strategic and thoughtful with these decisions. My thanks to members of the citizen-driven committee, our Community Development Advisory Board, for their time, input, and guidance on this process. Last year, we got news that Binghamton would receive $46 million in federal relief funds through the American Recovery Plan Act, also known as ARPA. As far as I'm concerned, this was just a down payment to American cities like Binghamton after decades of disinvestment by the federal government. With this funding, we've allocated millions for projects like upgrading the city's water network to ensure safe, quality drinking water. We spent it on hazard pay for essential workers, childcare for families living paycheck to paycheck, and cybersecurity infrastructure here at City Hall. As I mentioned earlier, the city is also using millions of dollars in ARPA to support affordable and senior housing projects across the city. $6 million was earmarked for these projects in previous years, and we're committed to making more money available to meet the demand and support projects in the pipeline. We'll also use $2.5 million of ARPA funding next year to replace more aging water and sewer infrastructure. And today, I'm announcing a new $1 million youth fund to support programs and services for Binghamton children and teens. An investment in our youth is a direct investment in our future. A portion of the funds will support a new partnership with the Binghamton City School District to provide trauma-informed care and violence intervention. We'll also fund youth mental health services and upgrades at the Boys and Girls Club, building in the first ward that has served thousands of kids over the years. The rest will be set aside for local nonprofits as part of a competitive funding round to develop and expand youth services. Think after school and summer opportunities, youth employment initiatives, and STEM programs for teens. The Community Foundation will serve as our partner to effectively and efficiently get funds out the door and into the neighborhoods where youth need them most. Ask any teacher or social worker, parent or principal. The pandemic has affected our youth in a deep way, from mental health to academic outcomes and behaviors. Anecdotally, we've seen younger and younger kids as perpetrators of crime. With this funding, we're responding to this issue in a meaningful way and supporting our kids. I want to take a moment in detail to speak about the city's refuse fund, how we collectively pay for garbage and recycling collection. The 2023 refuse fund is roughly $4 million. It's supported by $1.5 million in revenue from residents purchasing those blue bags, but subsidized by $2.5 million $2.5 million from local taxpayers. And contrary to popular belief, blue bag revenue does not cover the costs of collecting garbage in the city. In fact, it covers less than 40% of it. That means Binghamton small businesses who use private haulers or homeowners who generate little in terms of garbage, like our seniors, are covering most of the collection costs through their property taxes. That's $2.5 million that should be buying snowplows or paying cops or cleaning up our parks, not bailing out a broken refuse collection system. Next year's budget calls for a slight increase per blue bag, 25 cents, to offset rising costs of fuel and the cost to actually manufacture the bags themselves. It's the first increase in 7 years. However, institutional change is needed in the way that the city pays for its garbage collection. And I do not mean privatization. If you split the $1.5 million in revenue from the blue bags across some 20,000 households in the city, Binghamton households on average spend about $75 a year on the blue bags. Even when you include the taxpayer subsidy, it's still only $200 per household per year. And outside the city of Binghamton, households are paying private haulers sometimes more than double that for refuse collection. That includes many services that don't come as frequently as the city's once-a-week pickup. And some haulers have extra charges for yard waste collection. In the city, it's free. The issue is not with our dedicated sanitation crews who are working in 90-degree heat and sub-zero temperatures, but rather the issue is finding a fair way of paying for refuse collection that benefits everyone, reduces our property tax burden, and ensures cleaner neighborhoods in all parts of the city. I do not have those answers today, but I ran for mayor to be a problem solver. And over the next months and years, it will be my focus to deliver solutions on this issue. Finally, let's talk about property taxes. I'm pleased to announce that in 2023, the city of Binghamton will have no property tax increase. In fact, it's a very slight property tax decrease for both residential and commercial property owners, a 0.01% reduction for those residential and commercial taxpayers. Next year's budget puts the city's constitutional tax limit at under 80%. A decade ago, this number was dangerously high, in the low 90s. Our community has needs just like any other. And as it's always the case in local government, the wish list that we have exceeds what there's funding for. And too often, local leaders go to taxpayers again and again and again, asking them to shoulder more of the cost. I simply won't do it. The responsibility of both funding essential services and driving progress falls to our municipal leaders, not the taxpayers. It's on us to make the tough decisions and protect families from unreasonable tax hikes. Binghamton cannot expect to compete in job creation, population growth, and economic development if we do not have a competitive property tax rate. When I took office at the beginning of this year, I knew holding the line on taxes would be a challenge with inflation and economic uncertainty. Those circumstances also underscored the urgency behind our goal. With families facing costs rising in every other aspect of their life, we needed to step up and deliver for them. Some final thoughts this afternoon. The 2023 budget took considerable time to compile. My sincere thanks to the department heads, the entire finance team, led by Chuck Shager and Lori Clift, and Mayor's office staff for their efforts. Please join me in thanking them. The 2023 budget solidifies Binghamton's reputation as a city in action. The decisions, investments, and projects outlined today are what make Binghamton the best place to start a small business, the best place for a young family to build their future. Cities are often pointed to for our problems, but in Binghamton, we're making sure we're known for our solutions, the meaningful steps we're taking to revitalize our community. In cities like Binghamton that give residents the best shot to climb out of poverty, where artists and entrepreneurs have the greatest chance to thrive. It's cities like ours that can offer an affordable quality of life and the most for everyone who lives here. Nearly $100 million preparing this budget, I asked myself a lot of questions about almost every dollar in there. Does it matter to a retiree on the east side or a single parent on the south side? Do our policies help make small businesses thrive? Do they support hardworking homeowners in the neighborhoods they live in? Does this budget make Binghamton streets safer? The budget should not be the wishes of one elected official, but should act on the needs of an entire community. I heard directly about those needs on front porches and at kitchen tables as I campaigned last year. I'm confident this budget reflects those needs. So with that, I present to City Council and our citizens Binghamton's 2023 budget, one that both protects the taxpayer and delivers results for the great city we all call home. Thank you very much.